What's happening, friends? Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick, and on this channel I talk about cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, and economics. So if you like those topics, be sure to like and subscribe. Today's video is about Platypus Finance and the newly started Platypus Wars on the Avalanche network. Platypus is a protocol that lets you swap stablecoins and also earn some very high yields in stablecoins, 20, 30, even sometimes 50% or more on stablecoins. And recently, this week, two protocols, Echidna and Vector Finance, have launched, and they're trying to help people optimize their stablecoin yields on Platypus, but they're also trying to accumulate the Platypus native PTP token. So today I'll go through how Platypus works, how Echidna works, how Vector works, and then I'll do a side-by-side comparison of Echidna and Vector. Cool, a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. First thing that we'll want to look at is Platypus. So platypus.finance is the URL. And if you go to the swap here, you'll be able to see that you can swap 5 different stablecoins on Avalanche. They're right here: bridged USDT, bridged USDC, bridged DAI, native USDC, and native USDT. And the slippage on some of these is actually lower than on Curve, which is quite impressive. And you can see they've accumulated about $1 billion of liquidity, which is also impressive. But what really jumps out for me are the rates. So for example, by staking just plain USDC, your base APR is 10%. That definitely beats a bank account. And you can boost it by locking PTP tokens, and your median boosted APR of everyone who's doing that is 46%. And I'll talk in a second about how that APR is calculated. But an important thing to note is that your rewards are given out in the Platypus PTP token. Of course, you can sell that or compound it, do whatever you want with it, but it is given out in PTP, and that's gone up recently, which is part of the reason why these yields are so exceptional. But the way that the boost works is you stake your PTP and you earn VPTP. And the way that that works is right now, or at least at the start, your boost is 0. And then every hour you accumulate VPTP based on how many PTP you have staked. So you don't start with your VPTP. It's not locking it like on Curve or some other protocols. Instead, you accumulate it over time. And as your ratio of VPTP to stablecoins goes up, so does your boost. So the boost is calculated by a formula that looks at how much VPTP you have compared to how many stablecoins you have. And that's pretty cool because it doesn't require you to necessarily have a ton of PTP. You just need to have a decent amount compared to the number of stablecoins you have, and you need to be willing to stake it for a long period of time. Because if you unstake any PTP, all of your VPTP goes away. All of it, even if you just unstake one, it's all gone. So that gives people a very strong incentive to lock their PTP for an extended period of time. And that's basically in a nutshell how Platypus works. But because of this unique sort of setup and tokenomics, several protocols have launched that allow you to optimize your yields. So they accumulate PTP, you give PTP, and they receive you a sort of locked version of it, like a token that represents the locked version that you can't convert back. So it's a one-way lock. But then they also take that PTP, stake it forever. They take it out of circulation, accumulate VPTP, and then allow people to stake stablecoins with their platforms and earn boosted yields. So your yield might not be as high as if you staked a ton of PTP yourself, but it's definitely going to be higher than the base rate, which is pretty cool. So those protocols are Echidna and Vector, and I'll go through how each of these work and some differences between them today. So Echidna, if you go over here, first thing that you'll notice is that they are trying to accumulate PTP. So that's sort of what both of these protocols are doing is they're sort of vying to control PTP, which is why I called it the Platypus Wars, and I did not invent that term. That's been going around. So you stake PTP here, or lock it here. You receive ECD PTP, ECD for Echidna, and then that ECD PTP entitles you to emissions from the platform. So they're going to emit their sort of governance ECD token, and you get those if you have ECD PTP. So it's a little confusing, and I'll show a diagram in a second to explain how all this works. Don't worry. So you lock that here, and then they take that PTP and they stake it forever and start building a balance of VPTP. And then if you deposit stablecoins, for example, USDT, USDC, etc., you can see that your APR is better than it would be just in Platypus with the base rate, because they're earning their VPTP from those people who locked PTP, and they're using that to boost these yields. And so it's not like incredible. It's not that 46% median we saw a second ago, but it's still 19.6, 22, 22, 26. It's still a very nice rate. And with this, you can just get it without having to lock anything yourself. You don't have to do this. This is sort of like a separate feature of the platform, but you can lock this here, and you're still earning PTP rewards. So you're still getting the Platypus tokens from your stablecoins here. So that is pretty cool. And then, like I said a second ago, if you do lock PTP, you receive their Echidna tokens, which you can stake here. And if you do that, you receive part of their platform fees. So they don't give all of the PTP back to stablecoin stakers. They give some of it to people who hold their governance tokens. And you can also vote on gauges within Platypus, and people are expecting that'll become relevant at some point as stablecoins compete for liquidity on Platypus. And again, I'll go through a diagram in a second because I know this is complicated. Vector is very similar. Vector is a very similar concept. Vector, some key differences are their stablecoins. They supplement them. They do the PTP rewards, but they also supplement it with their VTX governance token. And so for a while yesterday, those rewards were actually higher than the Echidna ones. Now it looks like they're about the same, but they supplement the rewards for stablecoins with their VTX token. Additionally, another key difference is that their token XPTP can be swapped back to PTP. So they have liquidity in Trader Joe to swap between them, XPTP to PTP, and they also have nice APR on that because they're giving rewards for providing liquidity on that. And I think that's a major benefit because Echidna says they're going to add liquidity eventually, but right now it's a one-way trip. Once you lock it, it's gone. But on Vector, you can swap it back, which is pretty cool. Another key difference is that their locked PTP, which is called XPTP, that actually earns platform fees as well. So it's not just their governance token; it also earns a proportion of platform fees, which is nice. So you can see that one, for example, gives you 500% APR right now. Not bad. Echidna is actually a bit better. Echidna is 1400% APR. Still good. Still very nice. And the reason that this one is better is just because they're giving all of their ECD emissions to this pool, whereas VTX is also giving some of them to stablecoins and to the liquidity pool. So they're incentivizing liquidity as well. And so that's sort of the nutshell. And then I think I wanted to go through these first sort of separately, but then if we go into a little presentation here, then you can see that this is sort of the breakdown. So if you wanted to sort of refer back to this when you're looking at the video, stablecoins on Echidna earn PTP, Vector, they earn PTP and VTX. On Echidna, the locked version of PTP just earns governance token. On Vector, it earns PTP fees plus VTX. And then the sort of locked version of Echidna, of the Echidna governance token earns PTP. Oh, and then the other key difference is that in VTX, they take those PTP, they lock it, and then they give you that locked version. And I think this is bad for you if you're locking their token or staking their token, but good for the protocol overall because it means that they're going to accumulate even more PTP over time. You guys are probably so tired of hearing me say PTP at this point, but it's how it goes. And the other interesting thing with Vector is that they actually don't require you to lock VTX. You can just stake it with no lock, but your rates won't be as good. You can lock it and the rates will get better. Whereas with Echidna, you have to lock ECD. So that is how these protocols are working in a nutshell. As far as the implications of this, I would say that one implication is that Echidna can offer a higher yield for PTP lockers, at least right now. And that's because they are putting all of their governance tokens towards that. So they've been able to accumulate more PTP. The flip side is that because VTX is supplementing their rewards for stablecoins, their stablecoin rates were much higher off the bat. And this has only been out for a couple of days, so things could fluctuate. But they were much higher off the bat. And that allowed them to accumulate way more stablecoins than Echidna. So Echidna has about $16 million of stablecoins now, and Vector has $108 million. And I'd say that's a major success. Whereas they both have around 1 million PTP. Vector has 1.2 million, or Echidna has 1.2 million, excuse me. Vector has about 1 million. So Echidna has slightly more, but Vector has like 6 times as many stablecoins deposited. So that strategy seems to have been sort of played out, but it's only been a couple of days, so we'll see long term how it goes. Like I said, another implication or another important thing is that the Echidna version of PTP, ECD PTP, is not yet liquid, so it's a one-way trip when you lock it. And so that's sort of the basics of it. The allocation might be interesting to some people. So the community gets 70% in Echidna, only 55% in Vector. However, the important thing to note in Vector is they have these bonus emissions down here, which would bring it to 70%, and these they may or may not decide to distribute. So this is basically like bonus emissions they can give to incentivize community activity if it becomes relevant. So I'm expecting that to be essentially community as well. Team, very similar. Both are at 16%. Echidna has much more for advisors, 5% versus 1.5% for Vector. Treasury is 5% in both. Rocket Joe is slightly more for Vector. Airdrop is similar, slightly more for Echidna. And then, like I said, Vector has the bonus emission. So all in all, I would consider these to be very similar. If you add up team and advisors, Echidna is slightly more, but overall, I would say, compared to the sort of big differences in tokenomics, these differences are relatively minor. So how am I playing this then? Well, I'm not picking winners here. I am investing in both these protocols. I will put my stablecoins wherever the rates are higher, and I'll move them freely based on where the rates are in a given week. And my PTP, I split between both of these. I don't know which is going to do well. I'm accumulating both governance tokens, and I invested in both on Rocket Joe as the teams react to challenges and make improvements to the protocols. Hopefully it becomes more clear which one will be the winner, and as one starts to sort of pull ahead in terms of accumulating PTP, hopefully it becomes clear who the winner is. But for now, I'm not picking sides. And there's also another player in the space to make it more confusing. YieldYak is launching a similar product. However, these two are out, and these are the main two that are being discussed. So I decided to focus on these two for this video. Perhaps I'll need to do a follow-up that includes YieldYak. And that is what you need to know about Platypus and the Platypus Wars. I'll include some helpful links here down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment asking them. That's all I got for today. Till next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.